And welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I am Joy and I'm in my mid-50s. For several years in my life have been a bit chaotic. Then I retired and realised I had lost part of myself along the way. So I sent my husband off for 6 months to do a solo trip whilst I find myself again. And you could say it was a way of me having a midlife crisis. Now I'm doing these self-discovery exercises with you and working out what happiness I can bring back into my life. Now today's self-discovery question is, how can you navigate the emotions that stir you up? So emotions can be deceiving. This is what I reckon. 1 minute you're on a high, you're enjoying your day, perhaps you're doing your favourite thing, and then just a simple word, a tone of someone's voice, or a look or a smell or even a touch could even trigger something that causes a feeling of sadness or anger, that feeling of loss or grief, betrayal, loneliness. All those feelings can get stirred up. There is even more negative feelings that can be stirred up because of these things that can happen. And emotions can be in reverse too. You can be feeling negative and then something can trigger a positive one, like a feeling, a memory of somebody, that the way they smiled, the way they did something, and that it can be that real happiness. But today I'm going to discuss the negative triggers, the things that actually, perhaps what I said in my previous video, would be derail us. And these triggers can come in the most unexpected times, and sometimes there's going to be a flash, and others can linger and bring you down. So sometimes they can come in and be like, oh, I didn't like that, and then it's gone. So you don't really harbour on those negative feelings. And other things can be, they can sit there in your chest or in your thoughts and really bring you down, make you feel down, or make you feel like you don't want to do things or you don't want to be around people and that. And we really need to work out ways to feel the emotions and then be able to move forward in the way that works for you. So I'm not saying negate the emotions and not feel them. I'm saying they come unexpectedly usually, and we need to be able to feel them but not make them control our lives. I don't want to say you're going to be positive thinking and that, because it's not what it's about. It's about acknowledging the feelings and feeling them. And it's about being okay with the emotions and then moving through them, preferably quicker and more comfortable than before, and making them less of a negative impact on your life. I'll give you a few examples of what I mean. I've had an animal in the past. I've had plenty of animals in the past. And the unfortunate thing with animals is that they just don't have the lifespan as humans do. And with the death of an animal comes the hurt and the grief of missing them. And I'm starting already, that's tearing me up, because my last little dog was the best dog. Now these are the emotions that I'm talking about, because just talking about someone that you love can trigger the emotions. The dog I had, he had the undivided love and loyalty for me. He was just this gorgeous thing. And although he's passed 4 years ago, I still get teary, and I'm getting teary now about the fact he's gone. I still miss him so much. And although the day before he passed, I'd taken him to the vet to get painkillers, it wasn't because he was complaining of pain, but he looked like he wanted to help. He looked like he wanted help from me. And I have a huge amount of guilt that I was asleep when he passed on the cold wooden floor. And my thought was that maybe he might have been looking for me. My husband had found him when he came home about 3 o'clock in the morning. So he'd passed about 3 or 4 hours prior to that. So I'd been asleep for 3 or 4 hours. He passed, and then my husband came home. And my husband picked him up and popped him into bed and covered him with the blanket. The only thing is he put the blanket right over the top of his head. So he couldn't see the dog, and you knew it wasn't a position that a dog would be in, bury himself in. Of course, the dog wouldn't cover himself over the head and everything. So I knew he didn't die in his bed, and I was just about to leave to go to our shop, and my husband was standing there in the hallway So the hallway was there, and the dog bed was there on the floor. And I've walked through the kitchen and I'm thinking, well, normally the dog stirs or anything when I come in, and I couldn't see the dog anywhere. And my husband just standing there looking at me, and I then found the dog that he'd passed. My husband knew that the passing of my dog was going to hurt me, and he just didn't know how to tell me that this had happened. He just didn't want to be the person who told me either. He stood there, he watched me find my dog. I couldn't really go through the emotions because I then had to leave and go straight to the shop to start preparing for that day to be open. And of course my husband came home at 3 a.m, so he wasn't going to go off to the shop himself. So I had to spend the whole day at work, with staff, with customers, all this sort of stuff, really getting those feelings buried. And then if I got emotional, I'd go into the office and get emotional there, and I'd have to come back out and put on a face basically that nothing was wrong. I then came home from work. I picked up my dog. I had to drive him to my parents' place, which was like 30 minutes away, and hand my dog over to my dad to bury him, because 2 days later my dad was flying to Queensland. So I had this quick, I found my dog, he had passed, I had to go to work, I had to pick my dog up, drive him to my parents' place, my dad had to bury him, and then that was it. I had to get on with life. I really didn't have that time to grieve for him and to miss him basically, because life went on, and he had gone and life went on. And it happened, I think I fell apart after. I fell like completely apart. And still to this day, I mention my dog, and obviously I get upset. I'll put a photo of him in there. I still remember his little tag wagging. I still remember him jumping up, and his little head used to pop up over, because he's a very small dog, like used to pop up over the couch when my feet were up, like, let me up, mum, let me up, mum. I still remember how warm and cuddly and greeting he was, and how he loved to be on my lap all the time. And all these things bring back memories and emotions, the memories of the love, the sadness and the loss, and wanting him back. And sorry, sorry, my eyes are getting so blurry I can't read. So of course I still had that guilt too, that I wasn't holding him in my final hours. And I know practicality, part of me goes, it's like unrealistic to think that I could have done that, or anyone could do that. But I would have liked to have done that. Like, I would have preferred him to pass in my arms than to be on his own at the time. And I think most people can relate to the love of a pet in one way or another. But emotions can rear up at the least expected times, and they can have other impacts too. Only last week I was talking to my husband on our usual conversation, and as I called him and literally said hello, and husband had launched into his conversation, when I got a text message from a builder, and he asked me for an answer to a quote, like straight away. And this is at like 9 o'clock at night, and the builder goes, like, I need to know, are you going to go ahead with this thing? So I had to ask my husband to pause. And what he was telling me, he was in his conversation, and he was in the flow, right? So what's in here, he wants to get it out while he's talking. And I needed him to pause just for a minute so I could deal with this, answering this response. And the conversation went on after this, but he just kept talking. And the thing that happened was, he was talking and then there was nothing there on the phone. And I thought, oh, okay, hello. And the phone had gone dead. He happened to be in a location where it was cutting him out. His reception wasn't as good, and it was cutting him out. So husband's off going blah, 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 blah. And my phone's gone dead and he keeps talking and that. So the conversation went on like this, and I would ring him back and we'd be chatting away, and then the phone would hang up and I'd ring him back and chatting away and the phone hang up. So what he told me, his conversation's like this, and I got this bit and this bit and this bit of it. I only got portions of it. And we're both using Starlink as an internet, so he's constantly traveling at times, so the reception's not always the best. Me, I'm in the one spot, but he goes from place to place, so it's not always the best depending on his location, if there's too many trees or that. And we're chatting, we're dropping out. Now, husband never usually gets aggressive or angry, but apparently during one of these times of the dropout conversation, when he was still talking to me, but I was obviously not hearing it. I couldn't hear what he was saying because it had dropped out. He had said something. And then when I asked him a question, he snapped at me. Like, it was like with a comment to the effect like I wasn't listening and he had to wait around for me while I was doing something on the phone. Now, this is not something my husband normally says. He's not the type to get aggravated or anything like that, but he has these moments like now and again, and this is the moment, and this is so out of character for him, but that it triggered my immediate response of anger, right? I'll tell you why. Just about every time we're on the phone, he will do something while we're on the phone. He will go off and look in a drawer. He will go into another part of the caravan. He will go outside. He will talk to someone walking past while we're on the phone. So you get the gist of it. Just about every time we're on the phone, sorry if it's a bit noisy, we've got wind again. So he would be doing something else. It'd be, hang on, I'm just going to do this. Actually, sometimes he doesn't even say hang on. He just does stuff. And I go, you there? Oh, yeah, well, I'm just doing this. So for him to get snappy with me, the one time I had to deal with something whilst he was on the phone, and he had to wait. He didn't want to wait. He had things to say, and besides, he had told me this. He told me what he wanted to say, but the phone had got disconnected. So I'm asking him a question. He's telling me, I've already told you what it is, right? Probably not as harsh as what I've just said that, but I've already told you. But the way it came across, he was snappy at me, right? So this made me angry. And I sit there every night and listen to everything he says, okay? He doesn't always listen to what I say. It must be a man thing. They just shut it out. So majority of the time he talks about things that I would class as not important to him, let alone to me. And I'm waiting for him to do these things. So understandably, I got angry with this one time and I told him so. Here is where it wasn't the end of it. After we'd finished our conversation in that situation, although his emotion of anger had subsided from me pretty quickly, I was like, right, I'm annoyed at you. You shouldn't be saying that to me because I sit here and wait for you. So I can't remember the exact words, but it was that sort of gist I was trying to say to him. You know, I'm always here waiting for you. You hardly ever listen to me on the phone. And when I do say something, you cut me off. Okay? So this was the conversation we sort of had. And by the time the conversation had sort of finished, my anger sort of subsided. I just needed to sort of get it out. But I was on my own and I was about to go to bed. And remember, for me, this is around, by the time we're off the phone, it's about 10 o'clock at night when I hang up from him. And I've gone from being in a good mood, loving life, enjoying my journey, my self-discovery lessons, and feeling like someone had ripped my heart out and stomped on it because he said that. Like, it was like, I'm not waiting for you, you're not important. That's what went through my feelings part of me. Now, he hadn't done anything wrong, not in his mind, and he hadn't done anything on purpose to make me feel this way. It's just my feelings towards this encounter. It had brought up all those feelings that I was trying to work through, all those bad feelings that I was working on, and the thoughts that I had overcome them. That bad feeling of the past, everything came crashing down at once. So all those negative feelings I had towards situations that dealt with him, they just, one after the other, was like shooting at me. Now, this is how I dealt with it. I knew from the past experiences that I was not going to get much sleep at all with these sort of emotions so raw. I did text my husband with what I was feeling, trying hard to let him know that these were my feelings. So I wasn't trying to blame him for anything, because he honestly wasn't doing this on purpose to hurt me. So I was basically saying, these are my feelings. I still love you. But I decided that the nighttime conversations at that point were doing me more damage than good. Now, I was basically having these phone conversations with him for security reasons, to make sure that he was safe. And if he didn't answer the phone, I'd call the police and get him help. He's a little bit of a risk taker when he travels, and he's traveling solo. So actually he's a risk taker when he doesn't travel. But anyway, so he was traveling to remote parts of Australia, and at least if he hurt himself, there would be help within like a 24-hour period, because I know where he is and where he's going, and roughly if something happens where he could be. So the phone calls were mainly for him at this stage, especially this was having a huge negative impact on my progress, I felt. So I told him that, and he could text me at night to let me know he was okay. I knew he wasn't going to be traveling for a few days, so he'd be in the one spot, and I needed to clear my head. So I basically said, I don't want to do any of these nighttime conversations. Just text me, I'm okay, I love you, or whatever. But I wanted to just keep it to that. I couldn't have the talking. I couldn't have that unfiltered conversation, basically. And having one over the phone is virtually unfiltered, where if it's written down in a message, sometimes you read it twice and go, yep, that sounds right, before you send it. So I'm happy to say he was good about everything and gave me space. He didn't like the fact he didn't want to talk to me. He wanted to. He did miss it. I was able to get my emotions back on track and feeling that things were going to be right and in the right directions. And I'm not saying I've worked everything out 100%, but putting that distance between me and the issue that I was having, or that thing that stirred me up, can help, or did help me get a clearer head. So that's something that you can do, is put distance between yourself and what you think the issue is, or the person. And some people find it easier to talk, and other people find it easier to write their feelings down. So to me, even if your issue's stirred up and you don't actually do what I did and text, say, your partner or whoever it is that's giving you that, sometimes just writing it down is enough to release it. You don't have to pass on those things. And I think it helps not to blame somebody for things, because that just puts more guilt on yourself later on if you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that or that. So it's a fine line between doing the right thing for yourself, doing the right thing for that person, and doing the right thing for the relationship with that person. Now, if you have any other suggestions of what can be done, I am more than happy to hear them. It all helps having those different tools to help navigate your emotions and prevent them from derailing in your life and your progress. As I said, my life got derailed the other day. It did get derailed in this situation as well. And these were actually a couple of weeks apart. So I've just sort of started this video, even though this particular thing happened a couple of weeks ago. So it does happen. Derailing, I think, is part of life. I think it's more like when you derail, your life gets derailed, you don't give up. You just change your path a little bit or get back on track. So tell me, how can you navigate the emotions that stir you up? I've given you an example of what I have done. And in the meanwhile, stay safe. Subscribe if you haven't already. I really would appreciate it. And thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.